as Kelly mentioned today, they're going to work with him on finding a home. If that does happen, Kelly also just talked about today that it just depends, right? There's a lot of things that are still going to be worked out over the next few weeks and months. Yeah. But let's do the hypothetical that he gets traded. Then that 5 kind of like backcourt-ish players you can play in the backcourt shrinks to 4. All right. Amen, Reed, Fred,
Aaron Holiday.
Aaron Holiday. Who is a free agent addition or a young player? Like who is a player the Rockets can bring in to be a part of that rotation, or at least be there as a depth piece that you think is still out there in free agency that could probably sign for the vet minimum? Who is somebody that interests you and who you think would be a good fit?
I'll say this, and he's been very injured, and I wish that wasn't the case. But if he wasn't as injured, he wouldn't be going for a vet minimum. I don't know what he's going to make, but Malcolm Brogdon, I'm sure Houston would have interest in. But again, he's just been extremely injured. I'd have to ask Kelly about that question. But I don't know what his market is. He hasn't been signed yet, but that would be the first name that comes to mind before I take a deeper look into the free agent class.
If he get, and this is for me, if he gets cleared of those charges, you got to call Malik Beasley. If he gets cleared, you got to give him a call. You got to give him a call, man. Hey, it's all about prize picks, So it's just depending on how it is. But like I think for a minimum addition, you want to probably bring in a shooter, maybe a Seth Curry. You might give a call to your good old friend Eric Gordon. Rock fans probably hate hearing that name, but just someone.
I don't mind it. I don't mind it.
Just someone of that ilk in terms of someone that has ball skills. Going back to what Will talked about, being an actual true guard, being able to be a secondary, tertiary creator, and most importantly, provide floor spacing. These guys need shooters like desperately because you guys watched the last season. Like there was times where the reason why teams were so confident going zone was because they knew the Rockets weren't going to outshoot them out of the zone. And if you're trying to combat that going into a year where you think that you are in the tier 1 of teams in the Western Conference and maybe the NBA, you want to have as many shooters as possible. So I think adding KD was good. Dorian was good as well. If you think that Reed is going to improve as a shooter, cool. Jabari, those guys, but you still need to go out and get you a true vet sniper. And I think if you can find that piece, obviously you're currently, I think they're at the apron right now, the first apron, so they're kind of hard cap, but if you waive Jock, you'll have some more wiggle room if you trade Cam as well.
Can I ask you a question about that actually?
Yeah.
Do you think, because like the Kobe White trade people keep talking about, or just any trade that is not us waiving Jock Landale and trading Cam Whitmore for picks.
Yeah.
That would put us in the first apron, right?
Well,
we're right at that.
They're at the first apron right now. So anytime you use the mid-level, the non-taxpayer to bring somebody, and you use more than the taxpayer amount, you are hard cap. So the way to get out from under that is obviously by not guaranteeing Jock's salary, which is $8 million, that will bring you under. If you were to trade Cam, obviously Nate Williams' contract is not guaranteed until opening night. I think it's like around 2.5. It's around like a minimum contract. So those 3 names specifically is how you can get from under the apron. So think if Kobe's making 12 and you're sending out
I would say, do you think the Rockets would be comfortable staying in the first apron? That's my question.
I doubt it.
Because I don't think they would, because their whole thing has been being flexible from a cap perspective, because it's afforded them to be able to strike like now when the time is right. So I don't think that they want to be a first apron team, because they're still coming up. Like, it'll be one thing if they were a perennial conference finals team and getting, playing into May and June, then that's cool. But I think until you get to that point, you want to be as flexible as possible. And if there are easy ways to get out from under that, then they're going to do that.
Yeah, and that's why I feel like we probably won't see them make a move like that. Because I
don't think any trade. I don't think. This is me. Hey, I don't think. I think it makes more sense for them to get a minimum guy just to keep things from a cap sheet, because you still have 11 guys that can play. Like, it's not like we're not talking about a thin roster. This is still a deep rotation. So whoever you're bringing in is probably not going to play that much anyway, because if you're bringing in a guy on day 3 or 4 of free agency that's 29 or 32 as a shooter, are you putting more stock into him, or are you trying to see what you have in Reed Shepard, which was what I keep hearing time and time again? So it's like, in terms of your order of operations, I would rank Reed's playing time more than, seeing what you have in a veteran guy off the market who's there for a reason.
And I feel like what you just said is also part of why I think it's really difficult to see Cam Whitmore stay, because if you go chart out the minutes of the guys that we do have and do intend to play, it does not leave a lot of minutes. And like, I saw somebody say something about like, we can give him 13 minutes, but like, same thing. If you're Cam Whitmore, do you want 13 minutes a night? Like, are you cool with that being your reality where you're not playing? You may not play that much. You might just be at 13. Like I said, if that's my reality, I might just rather go somewhere else. So, go ahead.
The thing you're talking about is also like he may not play because the Rockets may not need him to generate rim pressure. Like with this whole conversation we're having about guards and these like having more playing time is because we need people on the team who can generate rim pressure, get to the rim, create offense. But like, take a step back, like go watch the Mind the Pod with Kevin Durant today. That was recorded before the trade. He's talking about mid-range and he's like, I'm going to take the shot I'm good at because it's going to draw in the defense to me and I can make a pass out. The ball's going to be in his hands. He's going to do that. You got to be able to make a shot. That's what Kelly's talking about. You got to be able to shoot the basketball. And it's like, it doesn't matter at that point who's the guard is because KD's going to have the ball in his hands. If you're Alperen Şengün and you want to be somebody who is going, if as Kelly mentioned a couple of weeks ago, is going to be shooting a lot more from 3 and they're working on his shot, then he's going to be playing along the perimeter a lot more and maybe playing more high post offense and being a ball handler there. And so I think there are avenues for the Rockets to not necessarily have to play a 4th guard major minutes. And then that goes back to your point, Will. Is Cam going to be okay with not playing major minutes as a 4th guard? Because he's not going to get minutes over Reed. He's not going to get minutes over Ahmed. And he's not going to get minutes over Fred.
Or DFS at this point.
Again,
also they just signed that guy for that reason.
Yeah, it's about him buying into a role. And again, I don't know if Cam buys into a role. He can be a dynamic scorer. That's his game. Like, he wants to be a dynamic scorer. And he has that ability, he's 20. But 13 minutes a night doesn't really have the ability to, and he kind of has to force some action in that 13 minutes to really clear up some more minutes for him in the future. And that's not what Ime necessarily wants. Again, they had to sit this guy down multiple times throughout the year and say, hey, there's a reason you're not playing. We need you to do this, 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 and this, and it didn't happen. So, again, it really goes back to Ali Khan's original question, like, what's the timeline? I think they do have young guys that fit this, group of, contenders, and I just don't think Cam necessarily fits at this current moment, and I'm not surprised, again, that they're trying to trade him. So, that's just me. I'm curious to see what they do with the two guard. They could probably stay and then just rock with Reed off the bench and Holiday. I don't know if they play both of them. They might, they played those 2 guards before at the same time. They have the size to do so. We've ran double big. They could probably go double big actually with Barry at the 3. You get your 2 bigs and then you can go Fred and
go quadruple big now.
Yeah, they can go quadruple big. They can go 5. Yeah. I tweeted out the small ball lineup that you put, Kelly. I think Will was like, bro, that's not a small ball lineup. I think a minute at the 1, and then the tallest guy is KD at 6'11".